Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for supporting Indie Agency News. I'm Doug Zanger, and I want to thank you for being members. If you're not members, go to indieagency.news. You can get more information about us. And another thing you can get more information about is our preferred partners. So these aren't what you would call random sponsors. So these are companies that have definitely proven that they've worked with independent agencies. They've proven that they've helped indies win. And specifically for us, we always want our preferred partners to work with existing Indie Agency News members. So I want to talk a little bit about our good friends at Path Labs. Right there. There you go. Media execution support that scales. So let's talk about this for a minute. You don't need to hire to scale media. And yeah, I know it probably sounds too good to be true, but that's what over 50 indie agencies have discovered with Path Labs. So they've really become an extension of your team. No headcount increase, no benefits, no management overhead. And we all know that executing media is getting harder and more fragmented. So Path Labs simplifies all of it so your team can focus on what they are great at. You know, things like strategy, things like creativity. And, you know, here's some data. You want to start looking at this. Here's one that's not actually in this key performance metric. They've got a 130% net dollar retention rate, 99.98% contract fulfillment. That's a big deal. Those aren't marketing numbers. These are agencies love working with us numbers. And so what I really appreciate, I've gotten a chance to get to know the team at Path Labs over the past several months. And they're great people to work with, and they're not a platform or automation tool. Experienced media pros who get it. So listen, if you're ready to streamline your media execution, not the sacrifice, check out Path Labs and all of our preferred partners at indieagency.partners. Again, thanks so much for your support and enjoy the show. Well, hello, everybody. I'm going to forewarn all of you. Oh, my God. Let's put this up there. I'm just going to forewarn all of you on a few things. I sent a Slack message to the gang. Kyle O'Brien, Katie Wally-Weger, and Jessa Ferris. We're going to have more people joining this little merry band of fools soon, too, which is fun. So I sent him a note. Yesterday, I got a flu shot and I got a COVID shot. So I sent a note saying, forewarning all of you, I'm in one of my moods. So I will say I can be self-aware enough to understand that I can be a moody one. And I think in large part it's because the dog wakes me up at 4 a.m. And so, you know, take that, you know what you want, but she's a sweet little girl. So we don't care. We don't care. How's everybody doing? I'm Doug Zanger, founder Indie Agency News, editor-in-chief, the whole schmear. Welcome. This is ketchup week, by the way, and I don't mean the tomato-based condiment. We're getting caught up on a lot of things. So we've had a lot of live shows lately. We're in the middle of judging Weirdos, Misfits, and Underdogs. A reminder that we will be doing our live streams the week of October 20th. So as we build this thing, we're figuring out, these timelines are stupid. So we're just going to make this a little bit easier on people. So the 20th of October is when we start with that. So we'll go 5 live streams, 40-1, and then we will announce that next Monday our first inductees into the Indie Agency Hall of Fame. Also, some of you have asked about The Classic, which is one of our bigger shows. It's a little bit more on the creative side. So here's what we're going to do with that. That's going to be that call for entries is going to be happening right after Weirdos, Misfits, and Underdogs. And we're going to make some changes. So we are going to add categories, but we're going to make the entry super, super simple. So that's the gist. Because what we want to do is we want to invite specialist presidents into each of these. So we will have a top 5 for each category, and then we'll have a top 40. So we'll go through another round. So then we'll have our top 40 agnostic of categories. So we got that going on. Another thing, a reminder to our members, one of our most favored member benefits are our member success sprints, 15 minutes on anything you want to talk about. But what we realized was we want to give people a head start. So what we learned was people were asking for help with news pitches to the trades, Ad Week, Ad Age, the Drum, campaign. We like helping with that. We don't care where our members get visibility as long as they get it. That's the most important thing to us. Now, we also have op-eds. People were sending us a bunch of op-eds. We were evaluating those. Awards entries, tons of those. Panel proposals, South by Southwest, Cannes, advertising. It doesn't matter. If you want to come up with a panel idea, doesn't matter if it's half-baked or even you're just starting, that's fine. Website optimization, we've been doing that for months, making sure that your site looks tight for marketers and search consultants. And then messaging. Some of our members are shifting some of their messaging. We evaluate that. So how it works is you go here, you pick one of these, and then it takes you to a type form. We get all of that, and then we send you a report, and then you're on your way. And the thing is, it's 50%. It is 50% AI, 50% human. So we're very clear on that. We're training these models, and we continue to train it. So you submit it, it gets analyzed, and then we spend time making sure that it all tracks. Then you get that analysis. Off you go. First Pass. If you are a member, please log in. You can go to firstpasshub.com. That takes you right there as well. Speaking of awards, and we have our friends here. Let's see. What is going on? I see a known issue on LinkedIn. So try ending the stream or just remove. No, we're just going to keep going. So this may end up being a recording, and we'll simply do a recap. Mark Tungate from Epica. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a great partnership with Epica, and what Epica is the keeper of all of our indie work. So they are sponsoring our indie work. So anything that we do, that we post, you'll see a little bug at the beginning, at the end of each post. And there's also on offer 200 euros off of your entries. So you enter 5 things, you can take 200 euros off, save yourself a few bucks here and there, which is great. So Mark, first of all, thank you so much for the partnership. And secondly, I do want you to give us the thumbnail of Epica, because it is very unique and it is very different than what people are used to with award schemes.
Yeah, well, the main thing is that it's global. It's a global award show, but it's I think it's the only global award show, at least in our industry, that's judged purely by the press, by journalists. Mm-hmm. So we have all the leading trade titles from around the world. So in the UK alone, we have Campaign, The Drum, Creative Review, and Shots. Right. And in the States, people like Ad Week and Ad Age and DigiDay. So, and their equivalents around the world. So that's the kind of the USP.
Right.
The thing that makes that interesting is that there's no agency politics. So you have a bunch of people who are experts in their field. A lot of them have been writing or broadcasting about advertising for many years, but they have that kind of objectivity and lack of bias. So there's no kind of agency politics when it comes to voting time. They're not going to vote for you because you're in their network. They're not going to not vote for you because you're not in their network. They don't care about that. They're just interested in the.
They're not going to vote for you after you say, "Hey, there's a bag over there for you." You might just want to go take a look at that. See what's in it.
No, they don't do that either. In fact, they're not even allowed to vote for their own country because right. when you work in journalism, you have you have buddies, you have people you go out for a drink with that work in agencies, and you might be tempted to say, okay, let's give them a prize because, I'm friendly with these guys. Right. But they can't vote for their own country, so they can't do that either. So we're talking
to you, Gideon.
So
I'm going to send him that snippet, and he's just going to give me boatloads of grief about that.
I'm not even sure he's on the jury, actually, but if he isn't.
No, I know. I love Gideon. I know.
So there you go. So that's it really. And the partnership with you guys makes a lot of sense for us because more than 50% of the agencies that enter Epica are indie agencies.
Right.
And I was just checking the figures actually. And so, for example, last year, 58% of our winners were indies, and that was as high as 67% in 2020, for example.
Wow.
Which means that indie agencies support us even when times are tough.
Right. Well, I mean, and here's the thing. I'm scrolling through this, and here's the thing that people need to remember is, I mean, look at this. We're on page 1, right? So we start on page 1 and you're looking at this going, are there 250 publications like this throughout yes, there are.
Absolutely, there are.
And so like what's Adformity? Where's Adformity? That's the Netherlands, right? I know those folks. They're great. Where's Adformity? Did I miss them? Oh, I saw them in there. But you got yeah, I mean, look at this. This is so important for people to understand. And I will also say that for visibility, when you enter, we had this great discussion with Shannon Keach, our resident awards entry expert.
Okay.
And here's what I loved. He said you need to treat awards as a channel, not an add-on. The other thing too is once you are in the mix, I can tell you, like, there may be somebody from Business Insider Netherlands that catches onto it. Visibility is visibility is visibility. I mean, Lurzers is sort of the OG, right? I mean, look at this. Everywhere around the world, you go through this, and I would strongly encourage folks to, oh, look at Bezos. Look at that guy. Yeah, he's ripped.
I don't know how old that cover is. We need to update some of these, I suspect. But
that's all right. No, he still has his little, wide-eye bemusement going. But the point here is that and I've met the folks from Norway. They are lovely.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I think it underscores a point that it's really, really important to get into the mix of all of this stuff. And, here we're getting a lot of really good testimonials. Now, listen, a lot of these are, from holdcos, and that's fine. That's fine. But, we got Jung Von Matt. We've got, I forget, is Heimat? I forget if I think they're independent.
No, they're part of, I think Heimat's part of TBWA.
Oh, they are. Okay. My bad. White Rabbit Budapest.
We had this conversation. Sometimes it's difficult to tell, Sometimes
it is difficult to tell. Oh, look at Tor. I love Tor. I haven't talked to Tor in ages, but then you got Zach over at Zulu Alpha Kilo. And so, again, I think the most important thing to remember here too, and coming from, listen, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm a journalist. You're a proper journalist, Mark. I am not a proper journalist. I came up as a copywriter in this business. But what I will say is, you will get a level of, and skepticism isn't the right word for it, but I'm going to use it. You get a level of skepticism, but also empathy, because to your point, a lot of these publications are working with a lot of agency folks in their home countries, and they're understanding how difficult this is. They understand how difficult it is to break through. We've heard a lot of agencies overseas saying, we really want to get some impact in the United States. And I get that. I totally get that and respect that. Conversely, I think that there's an opportunity for U.S. agencies to be looking at, it would be kind of cool if we ended up in the Netherlands. So it comes back and forth. But I want to talk a little bit about you've been involved with this for a long time. The award's been around since 1987. Shout out to Nico, by the way, Nico Uwe. But in your time, and you don't have to specify people here, but what are those conversations like in the jury rooms? Because I have to imagine that there's some level of similarity to what we would see in a traditional creative, industry judge show.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about what it sounds like and where the differences are.
Yeah, it's a question that people often ask, and I think that the main difference is, these are all writers, so most of them are all writers, I would say. It's probably a couple of broadcasters, some radio people, but by and large, they're writers. So there's a definite gravitation towards, great copywriting, great storytelling. They love a good story well told, even if it's a case study.
Right.
They do appreciate the craft of storytelling. I'm not saying that, other creative people don't do that, but I think they have a natural bias towards things that are just well written.
Sure.
I think that they do have a certain level of again, skepticism, cynicism, but they're very detail oriented, so they really look at things hard, and they, one of the things you'll find is particularly, if you have the case study, and then you have the famous results part,
right,
which as we know from the last episode of Can sometimes be a little controversial, and and so they are quite picky about the results part, and tend to. But having said that, we're not the Effie Awards, and the main thing we're judging is the creative idea. Is the idea original? Is the execution? The way it's done really cool or interesting or different. So we're really focusing on that rather than did it get X number of sales? But even so, they do look at that, and and they're pretty tough about it, and they're also pretty tough about identifying work that didn't run, kind of ghost work, because they write about, in their country, they write about this stuff.
Right.
They know if a campaign has been seen or not in their country very well, and they'll call it out if they say, "Hang on a minute, I haven't seen this."
Right. No. And that's the kicker in all of this. So one thing I will say is that, and I've told agencies this before, if you've ever, like, working with a journalist, or a journalist that might want to come over to the agency side, you make them a strategist instantly.
Yeah, well, there is a kind of cousinship, which is not a word, between.
No, I get that. Yeah,
between strategists and journalists, for sure. And I do know some journalists from Campaign, for example, in the UK, who've actually gone on to become strategic planners or work on that side of things.
Yeah,
agencies. So there is a crossover for sure.
No, and it makes a lot of sense. And and the thing to remember is, you really aren't going to pull a fast one over a journalist. And that's what's that?
That's what we like to think anyway. Yes.
I mean, listen, we're all moving fast, so I get that. No, I totally get that. From your point of view, winning an Epica award, and we talked about this yesterday again with Shannon, that there are two sides to this, where, and I've experienced this, I've seen this, I've heard it time and time again. There are really two sides to winning any type of award. Number one, on the business development side, you generally will get some inbounds. You'll generally get at least some interest. The other side of it is attracting and retaining talent.
Yeah.
I'm curious to understand, because if you win a Cannes Lion or a Clio or a One Show or a D&AD Pencil or an LIA award, like, it's like, okay, cool. Because this is judged by journalists, what is the feedback from the winners as it relates to raising profile? And I mean, it's because if you think about the Effies too, number one, that's a long ass entry. But if you nail it, it's like marketers will look at that going, okay, that's the real deal. And I would argue that if a journalist is saying, given the thumbs up here, that it has a different type of patina to it.
Yeah, I think I like to think there's a certain cachet from being given a prize by a journalist, because of everything we talked about, that it's, they're a difficult nut to crack, so you've obviously done something that's genuinely caught their attention and their imagination. And then, of course, one of the things we always say is that there is the PR aspect, in that even as soon as you enter the Epica Awards, without even winning anything, or being shortlisted, you've got this audience of journalists who are like looking at your work straight away, even before anything else happens. So, if we, every business is built on reputation,
right?
Basically. So, if you want to build the reputation of your agency, winning an Epica Award, or even just being present at the Epica Awards, is a way of doing that, and I think that's valuable. Without trying to be pretentious or say there was something that we're not.
No,
but we do add a bit of value to the awards ecosystem, I think.
No, 100%. And so the thing I'll also point out too is that Epica is twinned with Adform, which we love as well. Talk a little bit about how those two come together, because there are a lot of great great places to go, but I've always been a fan of Ad Forum.
Yeah.
How does that all mush together?
Yeah, well, Ad Forum's basically the owner of
Right.
Of the Epica Awards, to put it simply. And Ad Forum is also what I do when I'm not doing the Epica Awards, because I write for Ad Forum, which is kind of, at the same time, a database of great creative work.
Yep.
Because, it's renewed every day. Every new ad that comes out, almost every new ad is posted on Ad Forum. So it's enormous kind of archive of fantastic creativity, which dates back to '97. But then we also have, all the kind of classic journalism that you'd imagine, like
Right.
Interviews with creative people, with executives, etc. So it's a source of information too. And I think I think in a way it kind of works together as a partnership, because we're on the one side the award that's judged by journalists, and then on the other side we're committing journalism at the same time as well. So and I think that it's important that Ad Forum in a way is part of the community of journalists that Epica has created, because I think that's kind of interesting as well. I think we have that jury represent a community that we're in touch with all the time, throughout the year.
Right.
And so between Ad Forum, this community of journalists, and Epica, you create this nice hub where kind of journalism and creativity sort of interface. And I think that's the connection between them all.
Shout out to Carol and the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Carol and our team, and India and Aidan in New York. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. It's a very American thing. I don't hear shout outs on UK radio. Proper journalism time here. What was the first article you wrote as a proper journalist? Come on, give us your background a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So I come from a local newspaper background.
I started this.
I started working when I was 19 years old in 1987 on a very small newspaper in Wiltshire, which is a county in the UK. And the very first article I wrote, you won't believe this. So I worked in a small town called Swindon, which is not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Not a hugely interesting place, but I grew up nearby. So
hold on, Katie Dayton, I believe, from the Wall Street Journal. I think she might be from Swindon.
Really? That would be cool. I'd have to have a long conversation with her. Yeah, sure. I come from a small town nearby, and so that was the nearest paper where I could basically convince them to give me a job at the age of 19. And I remember exactly what my first article was, because they sent me into the town centre because there was a new McDonald's opening. And they wanted me to, and McDonald's was like a big thing for Swindon in 1987, and they wanted me to ask people what they thought of this fast food giant coming to this small Wiltshire town. And that was the first article, and I remember I was really proud of it because it made the front page. It wasn't the main splash, but it made the front page, and it also had my byline, so I could take it home to mum and dad. So I was still living at home. I was like, no,
Macca's.
Basically. So I could take it home to mum and dad and say, look.
All right, so hold on. I gotta see. All right, Katie. Did you grow up in Swindon?
She might remember my newspaper. She might have even seen my byline in those days.
Oh my God. I love this so much.
But then I, unfortunately, the glamour of Swindon was a bit too much for me. So I decided to go the seedy underbelly of London. Where
you're covering Macca's openings in Bethnal Green.
And I didn't work for local newspapers there. I worked for PR Week magazine. So that's how
Yeah. Okay.
That's how I got into writing about communications, actually, because PR Week, Media International, which doesn't exist anymore, Campaign, etc. So that's kind of in a nutshell my career. I also worked. I live in France, as you know, and
right.
I came over here to work for the French equivalent of Campaign, which is called Stratégie, who are also theory too.
Yeah. Okay, so born there, raised just outside in Wootton Bassett.
Oh, Wootton, yes, Wootton Bassett, a lovely little village. Yes, very nice.
Hold on, let me see if she can. Can you join a live show? Okay, let's see. Let's see if she bites on this.
Yeah.
Because
that would be pretty hilarious.
No, I'm just going to see if she. I'm going to see if she bites. Yeah. I absolutely. Here's the thing I will say about journalists. Okay, so again, I came up in this background of my first thing was I sold a radio script for $35.
Okay, cool.
And that's how I got started. But I can tell you, when I started getting into this, the first thing, oh no, she's in the middle of the office. All right, damn. All right. No, no, talking to someone who was a journo in Swindon in 1987.
Yeah. Through to 90, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So I started blogging for Ad Age, small agency diary. And so I started getting to know Jonah Bloom, Ken Wheaton, Matthew Creamer, Rupal Parekh. It's like you go through the list of the OGs of journalism.
Yeah, I've worked with Jonah as well.
Yeah. Well, he's a Spurs fan, so I don't really like him. Yeah. So they tore down the Debenhams and the bus station. Just as an FYI, you're getting some Swindon goss.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's all right.
There was a small explosion there the other
day. No. They just tore it down.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I really started looking at this going, these people are cool. They're super talented. I kind of I had like, honestly, imposter syndrome kind of thing, because I'm sitting here writing radio ads that people wouldn't listen to. And so, I mean, sometimes they would. So then eventually, again, I start building, and I worked for the folks that run the Advertising Week event, which is next week, by the way, in New York. And that was a great entree into it. And so the Drum recruited me. I had never been a proper journalist before. So the way I explain it is, and I want to give Stephen Lepetek a lot of credit, give Gordon Young a lot of credit, but also Katie Dayton, Jen Fall, Cameron Clark, like this, John McCarthy. I adored this crew so very much, because they really welcomed me in. They had no reason to welcome me in, right? But God, talented, gifted, just decent, awesome people. And so I got into journalism in there, and Stephen really worked, he worked hard to get me better. And he did, he really did. And so then I moved over to Adweek, and then I'm working with David Greiner, Patrick Coffey, Lindsay Rittenhouse, go through the list, Robert Clara, like these absolute pros. And so I got into journalism at the Drum, but I became a journalist, I think. Steph Patrick, shout out to you as well. Jameson Fleming, my mate Kyle O'Brien, who's been a proper journalist the whole time. So I got into journalism at the Drum. I became a journalist at Adweek. And so because I was forced to build in some more skepticism, I was forced into these ways. So Patrick Coffey in particular just made me better. David Greiner made me better. Those two in particular were really good. They understood like the cut of this jib, but man, it just makes me appreciate it more. And I think the point here is for people who, number one, you should enter this, but secondly, like you have to understand that these are such professionals, and every trade publication that we were leafing through. So you go through and look at the jury, all those people are pros. They're great at their job. They're dedicated to their craft. And you want that stamp of approval from someone like them. So I just, I'm such a fan of journalism, and it's just, kudos. And I'm looking forward to your next article about the McDonald's in Aix-en-Provence.
It's true. And the other thing to say about the journalists as well is that they really, they're not trying to be negative either. They really want to, these are nerds, basically. They love writing about advertising. They love industry. And so they want to celebrate creativity. That's what they're in there for.
Exactly. So I don't think we have enough time really to go over some of this stuff, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead. Let's see. Let me add this to the stage. So I'm going to go ahead in the recap here. I want people to take a look at some of this work. So Jung Von Matt, not members, but we've obviously deep respect for the work that they do. This was a monster in every award show, did incredibly well.
Amazing.
And I think it's also a great example of how you can storytell, especially as you're building all that out. Mother London, with the coworker, which was really great. That was really fun. Very well done. And then our good friends at Service Plan. Animal Alerts was so good. They did such a great job with this. Very well deserved.
I remember the jury when that when we saw that case. Everyone was like, "What is that true? Can dogs really do that?" No. Really
yeah. Listen, dogs are smart. And then, of course, the classic Coors Light rethink.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and put those on because I think our conversation went a little bit longer, but I enjoyed that better.
Well, me too. I'm always happy for a chat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the books behind you, I need to point out to people that is not a fake background.
I know these are real books. Some of them are
real books. How many of them are you reading at the moment?
Oh, actually, no. The one I'm reading is actually in my office somewhere.
What are you reading right now?
I'm reading The Life of Constantine Cavafy, the poet who lived in Alexandria.
Yeah,
I'm reading his biography.
Yeah, I'm reading another Scandi noir book.
He wrote the poem Ithaca, which is very cool.
Yeah. I'm a Scandi noir guy and my foreign policy magazine. So
that's cool. Yeah, no, I really like thrillers as well. And if you dig into what's going on behind me here, there are definitely a few of those. So this is the first book I bought on Amazon, by the way.
Oh wow.
The Lives of Lee Miller.
1996.
Yeah, somewhere around that time.
Oh my God.
And every time I look at that book, I think, God, wow, okay. But obviously, I try to buy all my books from independent bookstores.
As well, you should. No, I get that. I totally get that, and I appreciate it. All right. Again, a reminder to everybody: please enter. You get 200 euros off. Mark, any last words before we call it a day here?
No, just we're open for entries. We love indie agencies. They're part of our bread and butter. And please enter, and I guarantee you, lots of journalists will see and love your work.
Yeah. No, love it. I'm going to put you backstage. This isn't a Zoom call, so don't jump off. But thank you for the partnership. Much more to come. All right, everybody. I'm having so much fun getting to know the Epica people. And then Kyle and I will be over there in December for judging. Let's put it this way. My family was like, "You're going to Paris?" "Yeah." "You're going to Paris?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "It's for work." "So how many days are you going to Paris for?" 8. "You're going to work for 8 days." "Yep." I'm not going to work for 8 days. Listen, there's proper football to watch. I don't even know if Paris FC has a match that week. Now we're going to find out. But seriously, the Epica folks, got a chance to meet them in person in Cannes. We've been building this thing. Couldn't be happier and really excited. This is chapter 1 of a very, very long book with all of us. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all these journalists in Paris for sure, except Gideon. Gideon, I know I give you grief, but the more I make fun of somebody, the more I like them. So take that however you would like. All right, everyone. On behalf of everybody at Indie Agency News, Kyle O'Brien, Katie Wally, Wiegert, Jessica Ferris, Angela Natividad, and yours truly. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting this mission. We'll see you next time.